3, 2, 1. We are live. Welcome for anybody viewing live. This is the Enable Empower recap. I have a slew of nerds, head nerds, in fact, from the Enable team here. If you aren't familiar with Enable Empower, it is an event that Enable puts on every year. This year, it happened in Berlin. I am trying to be in Berlin. I'm not sure if it worked out exactly. It's a ChatGPT background. But of course, this event happened earlier this month, April 7th to 9th, and all these folks were there. So if you didn't get a chance to attend, we're going to ask them what happened at this event and what some of the takeaways, insights, and other actionable items are for MSPs that didn't get to attend. But we'll kick off maybe with some intros first. We'll go left to right. I'll do just a brief one. My name's Stetson, founded this as an IT support group. A community for IT professionals. Paul, why don't you take it from there?
Yeah, my name is Paul Kay. I'm a head nerd here at Enable, focused on kind of end-central automation patch management, and I'm based in Cork in Ireland.
Yes, and I'm Stephanie Hammond. I'm the head nerd that's responsible for all things sales and marketing related, so I am not technical. I've been with Enable for 20 years, and I'm located in Canada.
Hey everybody, my name is Jason Murphy. I'm one of, what are we at, 8 head nerds?
Yeah,
we've got a few here today. I primarily look after, or what we refer to as a subject matter expert around things like RMM, primarily and central.
All right.
Fantastic. Oh, and I am also based in Ottawa, Canada.
Beautiful Canada. All right. I'll mention to folks, this is a live stream. If you have comments, questions, drop them in the chat on YouTube. We can pop them up or ask some of these folks your questions live. But I think we get just kind of right into it. And maybe this will keep people from dragging through the video. I'll open this up to anybody. What are the top 3 takeaways from the opening keynote at Empower?
I'll let you go, Paul.
Yeah, no pressure.
Like, which one are you going to talk about?
So I suppose if we talk about John's keynote, John Paluca is our CEO. He usually kind of leads off every Empower. I thought what was interesting that John had to say this time around was, disrupt or be disrupted. Look at your own organization first of all. It's a challenging time for a lot of industries, for a lot of businesses. You got to look internally first of all to see how your organization is structured. Don't be afraid to make changes internally first of all before you go looking externally to win new business as well. And also another point he made during his keynote was, good enough security is not good enough anymore. You need best in class. And I think that was kind of emphasized as we went through the 2 days, and we heard from the different keynote speakers and just the security threat and how it's ever evolving as well. So that's kind of led into John bringing Robert Johnson, who is our general manager at Lumen, on stage, and he had some great insights as well. Things like SMBs are 3 times more likely to be attacked than enterprise level organizations. So this myth that a small or medium business might have that looks, why would a hacker target me? They're never going to, who am I to them?
Easy target.
Easy target, because they think you don't have the right security measures in place. So that for me was kind of what jumped out with John's initial keynote.
Yeah. And the idea of, and he says this a lot, and I think we all say this. I know if I had $1 for every time I said this during the day, it's the idea of working on your business as opposed to in your business. And that, along the theme of, be disruptive versus being disrupted, is that whole notion of you need to take ownership. And if you truly do want to evolve your MSP, you need to, really think about it and strategize and put the right resources in place to make that happen.
Yeah, fantastic. I just want to say I'm scrolling through kind of some of the agenda, and folks can grab this in the comments. I want to point out, I think everybody will agree, this isn't an event that's like, oh, Enable's really great, which they are, but this is obviously these insights for MSPs. This is, things that are happening in the industry, and a couple of those quotes there wow, SMBs 3 times as likely to be attacked as a large organization. That alone is really interesting and worthwhile. And I like that note as well, Stephanie, about working on your business instead of in your business. Reminds me of I think the book is, I'm going to forget it. Actually, how embarrassing. I'll find a link, but there's a book that talks all about that kind of building process aspect of
well, and it's really what it is being intentional, right? Like getting yourself out of the daily fires, whether that's a technical fire, whether it's a help desk fire, whether that's an employee fire, and taking yourself out of that. And whether, if it's once a quarter, once every 6 months, once a year, and actually thinking about, where do I want to take my business and what changes do I need to make to get my business where I want it to be, right? So it is having those strategy and those visionary type of almost kind of the come to Jesus, conversations with yourself and saying, look, if I truly want to move my business and evolve my business, what is hindering my ability to do that today? And what do I need to put in place to make that happen? And so that's working on the business. And if you are just, getting caught up with dealing with tech support and dealing with customer complaints and dealing with employees, you're never going to have those strategy conversations with yourself.
For sure. And E-Myth Revisited is what I was thinking of.
I thought it was E-Myth. So yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, fantastic classic. Let's keep rolling along. I know that there were a lot of announcements or reveals at Empower. I'm curious from you guys, were there any announcements that were surprising, and why?
I can probably take a little bit of that. There was a product AMA that I was able to attend. The reason why we had Paul and Steph kind of speak to the keynote stuff, because I was off manning what was called the Nerd Lounge, which was this really kind of cool area with video games and swag and all this other stuff.
Empower this year. It was a brand new addition to Empower.
And it went over really, really well. Yeah. But during that product AMA, we kind of did a bit of a reveal for 25, kind of like what we're working on. And based on things like vulnerability management, which is coming. Paul was there when they actually did the reveal before the AMA. We had people cheering for something like this.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Paul or Steph, you want to, riff on top of that. But the other big one was our new automation engine. All right. So we have a new scripting engine that's going to be coming into N-Central as well. So I was really surprised based on where we're at with kind of the scripting engine in terms of a V1, how much interest our partners were having around scripting. And I think that really kind of opened everyone's eyes to how really important scripting and automation is within our N-Central platform.
Yeah, the other thing that was a real big hit, and we didn't talk about Terence Mauri, who was our second keynote on day 2. He gave a talk on the upside of Dare to Evolve, but it was based on his book, The Upside of Disruption. Fantastic, keynote. And we always have wonderful keynote speakers, but, he was kind of talking about, not taking a risk is a risk. So it kind of really tied in nicely to the theme of Empower, of Forward Never Stops, and John's keynote. But I've never had, a keynote speaker, give away copies of his book. So he had stacks of his books that he was giving away. And oh my goodness, were those coveted items to watch MSPs walk around with the book underneath their arm. And they were starting to read, and they were excited to, pass it along to their team to read it as well. And to hear about some of the MSPs that didn't get a copy of the book. I think that was also fun, but excitement around that, to have a keynote speaker give away copies of their book.
Yeah, I think, Stetson, just to reiterate Jason's point as well. So I was in the Mike Adler, who's our CTPO keynote, and Mike always does kind of something different at Empower. So a couple of years ago, he had a conversation with himself through generative AI. This year, he had the Changing Beats of IT, where he had one of our Enable colleagues, who's also a professional DJ, join him to actually, I suppose, accompany his story as he went through his keynote. Now maybe that created a party atmosphere in the room, but when Mike announced that vulnerability management was coming to our RMM solutions at no additional charge for paid for nodes, there was actually loud eruption of cheers. There was flashing lights, cameras going off. I've never actually seen or witnessed anything
Hands
like that.
in the air, woo!
Yeah,
Like you
hooping and
thought we were at
hollering.
like a football game or something like
Yeah,
that. The excitement that we were including something.
Yeah, I've seen lesser reactions for goals in games and stuff like that. So that was great to see. But I also think, Stetson, for the last couple of years, we've talked a lot about the Ecoverse. And I suppose anyone that's familiar with Enable over the last couple of years and maybe has attended some of our in-person events would have seen us talk about the Ecoverse. This year, I think you really start to see the fruits of the work, because a lot of that work was kind of under the hood stuff that doesn't actually come to light initially. But as Jason said, the new scripting engine that we have, we got a preview of the new patching engine that's coming into our RMM solutions. We saw the enhancements that are coming to the asset view as well. So all this kind of Ecoverse work is finally coming to the fore. And I think that got that those people in attendance very excited about the direction that Enable's heading as well.
Yeah, sounds really exciting with some of these product announcements. Just I can imagine like champagne bottles popping and confetti and all these things. Paul, for folks that aren't familiar with this concept of the Ecoverse, can you what does that mean?
I suppose what we want to do is we want to have, I suppose, a holistic suite of products that offer, endpoint management, security, and also data retention. And the idea is that you don't use several different products, but you use products that all work together. But also we want to, make ourselves more accessible to third-party vendors that want to integrate with us as well. The IT landscape is always changing. There's always new solutions coming out. Enable doesn't have all the answers, but there are lots of good vendors out there that have great products that complement what we do as well. And we want our products to work with those products. So we want to make it more easy and more accessible for third parties to actually integrate with our solutions, so that our customers can have kind of best in class solutions right across the board, whether they get it from Enable or they get it from somewhere else as well.
Yeah, and
Stetson, I would say the other major takeaway from what Paul is saying is it's that open ecosystem type of approach, where a lot of other vendors out there are really kind of closed in terms of their product offerings. We're working towards, through our technology alliance program, bringing in more and more relationships so that we can bring integrations and APIs that really complement the service delivery of our partners.
Yeah, fantastic. And I look forward to reading API docs, actually. Hopefully with one of you or somebody else on the Enable team. We've done a few live sessions in the past where we've gone deeper into some of these automation offerings. And I'm excited to hear about this scripting engine coming to N-Central, what that'll look like. But to kind of recap, so we talked a little bit about the opening keynote from John about security, SMBs getting attacked, and Jason, you working the Nerd Lounge, and some of these announcements. Curious, what overarching message do you see or want partners to remember, if there's like one thing to kind of hold on to?
Yeah, I guess I can take a bit of that. Like I said, I was kind of off doing some cool stuff with our partners, kind of like playing Mario Kart, which I will admit I suck at, and that's okay. We're not always good at everything, so a lot of partners whip my butt. But in terms of like some of those key takeaways, and just to parlay what Paul and Stephanie were saying earlier, is do not be afraid of that digital transformation that every MSP has to go through. There is an MSP maturity model. Not every technical business owner can just hop and start working in the business, right? Or I should say on the business. It is a progression. But again, we have a lot of efforts internally to help complement how to get there. And I think that was kind of the major takeaway that a lot of our partners kind of glommed onto during that 2-3 day conference that we had, is that do not be afraid. There is help. We have a business transformation group here at Enable that is highly interested in working with our MSP partners on that kind of digital transformation effort and what that looks like, either from a financial point of view, a technology point of view. I would say that's kind of my major one.
Yeah.
There was also an N-Central certification that we also did at Empower. Paul and myself were involved in that, and Paul and I always have a really good back and forth whenever we get together.
Is that what you
So
call
I
it?
say again.
Is that what you call it?
Yes, entertaining. But outside of just entertaining the audience, there was over 100 attendees. I think we had 85 registered. We had 110-ish that actually showed up. So we were obviously surprised that so many people wanted to take their N-Central certification, and we had a 80% pass rate, which was kind of right in line where in terms of that sweet spot where we wanted it.
Just
So,
above the norm, Jason, but that was
yes,
down to the excellent tutorials that we delivered, I believe.
of course, right? So it was a 6-hour session, and there was a lot of happy technicians that were there who actually got their certification.
Yeah. But I think it just, the overarching theme is like that growth, right? Like our whole theme was forward never stops. Growth. There was a lot of optimism and excitement from the MSPs that were there. We see it in our MSP Horizons report. 40%, 45% of MSPs, they're expecting double-digit growth, 20% growth. So the growth is there. But I think going with what Jason and Paul were saying is, you just have to be ready and plan to capitalize on that growth. And Enable as a vendor, peers can help you with that growth if you are, intentional about going after that. And I think for me, I talked a lot about in my sessions, like, growth is there, but what's stopping you from capturing that growth for your MSP? And that was really what every session, whether it was technical, business transformation, M&A, there's different ways that you can wrap your hands around grabbing some of that growth for your MSP.
I think for me, Stetson, I get so much out of Empower. I learn so much when I go to Empower, and I work for Enable. So I'm privy to a lot of this information beforehand. But so I can only imagine, someone attending Empower, what they're intaking as well. It's very hard to kind of maybe nail on one or two, key takeaways. But what I thought was interesting about this particular Empower, we had representation from 39 different countries across the globe. This really felt for me to be the first global Empower. In the past, we've done Empower in North America, and we've done Empower in Europe in the same year. And a few years ago, we shifted to alternating years. So we just do one main event a year. It always in the past, particularly the European ones, felt it was very European centric. Whereas this time around, we had partners from North and South America. We had partners from South Africa. We had partners coming up from Australia and New Zealand for a 3-day event. I mean, that's a hell of a long way to come.
With their families.
Maybe they extended the trip a little bit.
They did, but it was lovely that they saw this as such an important function that they wanted to come, and they brought their families with them as well with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I hope there will be an Australia Empower and that I'll get an invite. And long flight though, very long flight. All right, that's a lot of. We're covering a lot. I'm just going through some notes and kind of spacing out because I'm hyped as well. I think I wasn't there, but Stephanie, you mentioned this quote. I think 45% of MSPs expecting double-digit growth. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I think 40 to 45%. I can't remember the exact number from our Horizons report, but we're expecting growth of 20% or more. That sense of optimism that is there, and obviously cybersecurity is driving that. The business resiliency, the business continuity is driving that, and so that's what I'm saying. The growth is there if you are in the position to capture it. but there's work to be able to do that. But yes, it's a lot of good insights from our Horizons report, which I'll be doing other podcasts on with Pete Roythorne.
Yeah, awesome. Look out for that. I just dropped a link down below. I'm going to read
Oh,
that
thank
out.
you.
Yeah,
Pete will love that.
and there's also previous years available if you want to check those out. But yeah, that's really awesome to hear. I think there might be some MSPs that are feeling a little bleak, but should know that the opportunity's out there and that growth is there.
Absolutely. But it's if you're too busy getting fighting fires, you're not really looking out at the horizon. Didn't mean that was a pun, but like looking out at the horizon to see where can I drive my business and what do I need to be doing to get there. And the nice thing is that when you are able to bring your head up above water, there's a lot of resources there, especially at Enable, that can help you reach that.
Yeah, I guess just special plug for all of the things that the Enable team does, from boot camps to events like this and Empower. Many of these resources are free. I think folks can just go out and grab them.
Partner.
Yeah, it's free education.
I think Stetson as well, what makes kind of Empower different is the amount of peers that we have involved in each session. So, you're not going to listen to people that work for Enable tell you how great Enable is. You're listening to people that use the products on a day-to-day basis and how they use them within their businesses. And I think that was really important with the kind of global nature of this. You're hearing from different regions, different industries, how they implement the solutions. And, I remember David Week said in the kind of closing notes when we had our own huddle at the end, a long-term partner of ours who's been with us for as long as I've been here said to him, I'm going to go back and actually rethink of how I actually do business, because he heard so many different things and so many great ideas from his peers in the industry, not us telling him how to do it. I think that's very impactful when you hear with partners actually go and think, look, actually there is alternative ways I can run my business, and there's better ways I can run my business as well. So when people are getting that out of the sessions, it's great to hear.
Yeah. And I think, going with what you were saying, Paul, that's what makes Empower different from other events. And I know every company says that, but our Empower events are truly different. Like our customers come back to Empower year after year because of the connections, the relationships that they've made with other MSPs in the industry. And with it being a truly global event this year, going to the operational maturity that Jason was talking about, every market is in kind of their own evolution of managed services. And so when you were able to bring 39 different countries together, and you have, different MSPs from those different countries kind of talking about their business and what they're seeing in their neck of the woods, and, be able to take some good nuggets from, somebody from North America, or somebody from Australia, or somebody from South Africa, that's powerful. And to know that we have MSPs that keep coming back year after year because of those connections and those relationships they've established is pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. I'm glad some folks could get kind of out of the office, out of their business, and break the routine a little bit to get hyped and go back and build. I want to talk a little bit about product and roadmap. I'm curious, I heard there were some in-central enhancements coming out. I want to know, what are you most excited about? And how could this impact MSP workflows? I'm using you in the general sense. Whoever wants to speak up first.
Oh, I think I'll go first. I mean, Paul won't mind. For me, it's going to be patch. Patch in N-central is amazing today. However, there is a lot of layers that you kind of have to all assemble together. We're going to bring a lot of patch simplicity, and more importantly, parity. It's not just patching in Windows; it's patching all of the things, right? So primarily focusing on Mac and Linux as well. So having that ability within your RMM to standardize, especially when we start overlaying vulnerability management on top of that, right? Because there's going to be applications like third-party applications. There's going to be Windows with patches, or any other operating systems, and being able to see those vulnerabilities and also hopefully remediate them if there is obviously a patch for it. So having that visibility is going to be just kind of paramount to how IT operations is now also converging into security operations. There is an overlap. We all have to kind of recognize it. IT teams were very much an IT operation. Now we have security operations, and maybe if you're a large enterprise, that is a whole silo off to the side. But there is some security overlap between those two teams. So being able to deliver that through our RMM products.
Awesome.
I'd probably say patch as well, Stetson, but I'm not going to reiterate what Jason said. So I'll say something different. And this is probably more in kind of towards next year as opposed to this year. But one of the things that Mike highlighted in his keynote was a little AI assistant that we're bringing in to our products, probably more so in 2026 than 2025. But I love a bit of AI and anything that we can do to assist our partners, suggest remediation, gather insights in terms of what might be causing an issue. Anything that can make my life easier is something that I can get on board on. So that was kind of something that jumped out of me. Probably see more of that in 2026 than 2025, but anything that makes life easier for partners is welcome in my edition, in my book as well.
Yeah, and I'll point out, I also look forward to future sessions on AI. So I hope we can bring one of the Enable folks on once that's rolled out and chat about all the cool things MSPs can do with both of those features. One other topic here, I saw there was a cybersecurity roadmap session. Kind of curious what that was all about and just key takeaways, if anybody could speak to that.
Well, I can speak to a little bit of it. I wasn't in that particular session, and I wish we would have brought Lewis in for this particular question, at least, only because he kind of really owns that as our head nerd for security. But I will tell you that earlier or late last year, is it late last year or earlier this year? Everything kind of blending together. We acquired a major cybersecurity firm in the form of Adlumin. So they have now come into the Enable family, and we have obviously done our best to really kind of roll out Adlumin to our partners, so that they obviously have additional layer of security. And if you're not familiar with Adlumin, you can think in very kind of basic terms. You have a SIEM, SIEM, and then you have a SOC, and then you also have a SOAR. SOAR is that security operations and security orchestration and automation remediation. So pulling that all together, so when things go wrong, actions can obviously proactive actions can happen as well. So it's a kind of a really large deal for us, Enable, but also our partners.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I suppose to go a bit deeper even onto the Adlumin side and what that acquisition has brought into in terms of our product portfolio. Robert Johnson, who's our general manager of Adlumin, in his keynote mentioned that 66% of cyber attacks involved compromised identities. So one of the new features that we've launched as part of, and this is it's not technically roadmap because it's launching as we speak, is Microsoft 365 breach prevention. So if we think that 2/3 of all cyber attacks are caused by a simple username and password being compromised, being able to identify that as soon as possible or prevent that with a breach prevention tool is hugely important. So I think that's going to be a significant addition to most MSPs' product portfolios as they move forward as well.
Yeah, and if I could just do a little plug, I'll be doing a webinar on that Microsoft 365 breach prevention with Lewis in May. So if you want to head on over to n-able.com/events, you will see something there very shortly.
And I'm working on 2 masterclasses as well, focused on breach prevention and how to implement that into your MSP and make money off of it. So those are going to be coming soon.
Awesome.
Yeah, fantastic. I'll encourage folks to join those. The link is below. Of course, they're free and open to anyone. One other thing here on kind of product side, I heard about this multi-tenant scalability thing. What is that word? What's on the roadmap there?
I can take that. So when RMMs were, I mean, let's talk about the word RMM. Okay, it's been around for 25, 30 years. RMMs aren't just remote management and monitoring; they do a little bit of everything for IT operations. Look, it's even dabbling in things like vulnerability management and security, EDR, for example. So all of that comes into a platform. The problem is when RMMs were architected, primarily our Central product, for example, you couldn't contain what some MSPs are managing today in terms of hundreds of thousands of devices. With this Ecoverse vision, we're able to, within the Ecoverse, start managing not only hundreds of thousands of devices, but even millions. So that scale piece is hugely important to how some of our largest MSPs operate. And that is kind of where we kind of started with this whole Ecoverse vision, and making sure that we can accommodate not only the small MSP, but also the super large as well.
Awesome. So a TLDR, we can add more endpoints and scale larger.
That's
Will it
it.
scale? Yes, is the answer. Fantastic. All right, if there's nothing to add there, I do want to talk, next topic is some of the partner panels and success stories. Of course, Empower Berlin has N-able partners, customers, different people. Steph, this is a question for you. I'm curious which partner success story it was showcased at Empower stood out to you, and if you could talk about what made it compelling.
Yeah, I would probably say, and I probably sound like a broken record as I keep saying this, like the peer networking and the connections, and whether it's being part of a formal peer network, like our business transformation or some of the other ones that are out there. I won't name them, but there are formal MSP peer networks that are out there, or even if you're doing something on an informal network, the power of recognizing that your growth isn't going to come just from you alone, that there is power of working with others in the industry that have been there, that have done that. Like all my panels, I had a pre-day event that had partners on it, and then I had a 2-day sales and business development track. And for my sales and business development track, all 4 of my panelists all cited that they have been part of peer networks, like MSP peer networks, for several years, and they absolutely attributed their attendance, their contributions, their involvement in those peer networks as driving their business. So that was kind of the one, one of the big, partner success stories and the takeaways. And I actually asked the question in both of my sessions that, like, who is part of a peer network today? Last year in Frisco, in Texas Empower, no one in my room of 50 people were part of a peer network. There was some hands that went up this time around. I would say maybe 3 or 4. So what I loved seeing from Empower was seeing how, the MSPs that were in my sessions, watching them get to know each other. And because I kind of said, all right, here's your first, peer network. Look at everybody that's in this room. They're all in the same industry together, and learn from each other and talk to each other. And one of well, there's so many good things of Empower, but we offer a lot of networking breaks. And the way our venue was put together this year, it really did facilitate the networking and the relationship building and the conversations, like, whether it was in the expo hall, whether it was in the nerd lounge, whether it was in the pavilion, like you couldn't go by and not see pods of MSPs having conversations. And so I loved it seeing, because I recognize people from my own sessions, taking that to heart to say, put yourself out there and go talk to people, because we're not competitors. The answer is in the room. Go and grab it. So that I would say would probably be one of the top success stories that I would, from Empower.
Yeah,
just to double down on that, I would like to also do a shout out to Paul Cashmore and all of his folks.
I think you work harder than any of us at N-able.
And all of his folks at Solus Cyber in the UK. They won Partner of the Year for N-able, and I know they kind of live and breathe that story that N-able was expanding on.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. I gave a quick Google on Paul there and plugged his LinkedIn. Yeah, I'll definitely back up the power of networking, these different networks you can join, whether that be online in, very informal groups like the one we run at This Is an IT Support Group, or IT MSP Entrepreneurs, to some of the more formal ones that you mentioned, Stephanie. That's definitely a way to just learn from people that have been through the path that you want to go down, right?
It's to think that you're going to grow your MSP to the level that you want to grow it on your own, you're kidding yourself. So you have to just look beyond that. The MSP that's in your peer group is going to be a competitor of yours. You guys could be having the same sales idea, marketing idea, technical best practice, but it all comes from the implementation of it, right? Like, you're never going to truly replicate what somebody else is doing, because you do have to figure out how does it work within your own MSP. But being able to leverage, what were their challenges, because whether you're a 5-person shop or a 50-person shop, like, we're in the industry, you're having the same challenges, for the most part. So being able to figure out how did they deal with that challenges, what steps did they take, and seeing what they came on the other side. And going back to John's keynote, another point that kind of popped in, and Paul was talking about, that is this concept of saying no to a customer. Like, security is so important now, but MSPs are still being, and I'm going to say it, they're still being bullied by their customers, because their customers are saying, no, it's too expensive. I don't need that. I don't want to pay for that. And the MSP is going, well, I can't sell it because they won't pay for it. And it's the power of saying no, and saying, no, this is important to me. Cybersecurity, 66% is identity issues with cybersecurity. You read different stats, like I think 68% of the time breaches are caused because of an individual. Like, smaller companies are the ones that are being breached. MSPs can't say, all right, okay, we'll keep doing what we're doing. The power of saying no, and being intentional who you are accepting and taking on as customers, that's really important. But unless you've done that, unless you've talked to an MSP that has, climbed that mountain, they're down the other side. I can say it all the time. Anybody can say it all the time. But until you talk to an MSP that has actually said, yes, I fired clients and I'm better off for it, that kind of peer conversation you're not going to get from a vendor, as much as I preach that. So I was hearing a lot of that conversation as well, especially in my sales, because we're having problems with sales. We're having problems with, prospecting. We're having problems closing deals. And a lot of it comes back to, are you even talking to the right people?
Yeah, Stephanie, I want to dive
my little soapbox there. Sorry, Stetson.
No, I always enjoy the soapbox speeches. I want to dive a little bit deeper on that. Some of these kind of top performing partners that you've worked with at N-able. I'm curious, did they have, you mentioned a few, but did they have any kind of actionable tips that MSPs can apply today, right now?
Yeah, because I always, like, I'm old school. So I had like charts and whiteboards and markers, and, as the participants in the room were kind of citing what their sales and their biz dev challenges were, a lot of it is coming from, I don't have a sales team. I don't have a marketing team. So how can I even get started with finding customers if I don't have anybody to it? So a big part of that is leveraging the power of your website. And I think for a lot of MSPs, their website is I have one, and they never think about it. It was developed 5 years ago and they haven't gone back. And to think that if you don't have a sales team, if you don't have a marketing team, you are wasting that asset that you have. Your website, when it's done well, is your 24/7, 365, never taking a vacation salesperson. And so one of the sessions that I had was, we did these website reviews, and I had my lovely friend, and I like to call him my friend, Mark Coltman. He's a director at Wingman MSP Marketing. And he had a wonderful session where he would, I'm not going to say critique, but he would review, volunteers who put their websites forward. And he talked about how to make this better, how to make this more engaging. Because you really need to think about, as an MSP, as a business owner, I'm going to reach out to another MSP because I don't like who I'm working with today. Most customers today have an MSP that they're working with. And so the purchasing trigger is when they've decided that I no longer like who I'm using today for whatever reason. Maybe they allowed a breach. Maybe I never hear from them. Insert reason here. So they're on your website for a reason, because they're looking for an alternative. So when they're on your website, what is it doing to start that conversation and want them to continue that conversation by reaching out and either calling you or filling out your call to action. And so Mark did a really, really good job of kind of offering, simple changes on what MSPs can do when they get back into the office, just to make changes to their website if they are struggling with sales. This is an asset that you already have. Put some time and effort into it.
Yeah, well, I love that quote. It's one I think I've heard before, but your copy or your website is your 24/7 salesperson, right?
Absolutely.
And that sounds like a really awesome session. I'll encourage people, just outside of this, learn to copyright or learn to hire somebody that can do copywriting. That's
But
awesome.
even the design of your website, and that's what Mark really focuses on is, obviously the messaging on your website, very, very important. But even like how you structure your website makes a big deal. Like, is it a laundry list of all your services? We don't care about that. I'm on your website because I'm having a problem. Acknowledge my problem. And if you can do that, I'm gonna be like, I think they understand what I'm dealing with. And that's going to encourage them to reach out. The fact that I see VoIP services on your website, I don't care that you have VoIP services. Why am I there? Recognize why I'm there and address why I'm there.
Solution sales? Oh my. Okay.
I think it's funny. Some of these websites are 5 years old. Though I've clicked on some customers' websites and they look like they're 20 years old. It looked like when the internet came out, first of all. So I mean, if you're talking about building confidence in yourself as a service provider, if the first thing someone sees is a basic or an outdated website, I don't know if
Mark even says he hits on it, like when you see the copyright field, or the little C and the date, I can't stand that when I see us put presentations out there and the little C is from 2023. I'm like, come on, update the PowerPoint template. It's the same for your website. Like, if it doesn't at least say 2025, then, make that change. Because if I come to your website and, to your point, Paul, I look like this hasn't evolved in 20 years. Sorry, the first impression is you're not going to be able to take care of my business. You can't take care of a website, and you're supposed to be tech, because in my world, website is what you do. I don't know what you do as an MSP. You fix computers, you fix my email. I don't care, but your website is an impression that I'm going to take with me and be like, well, no, I'm going to go and look at somebody else. I'm going to hit the back button.
Yeah, so many great points here. I have a funny anecdote of family tech support. Anytime I'm helping my dad out and I can't figure something out, he'll say, and you want to be my tech guy? And you want to be my computer guy? I think a reference to Seinfeld. But yeah, same thing for your website. You land on it, the copyright footer is out of date or it looks like crap. Like, and you want to be my computer guy? I don't know if that's building confidence.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Paul and Jason, I understand there's a partner panel. I'm curious if there were any common themes or challenges that kept coming up with some of the MSP partners and how those are being addressed.
Well, I had the pleasure of hosting a panel for the first time ever, Stetson, along with Joe Furla, one of the other head nerds. And the topic that we discussed was AI and automation. So obviously AI is a hot topic sprinkled throughout any event these days. But I thought it was very interesting to hear from the partners that we had on and how they're leveraging AI today, and actually how some partners are a bit more apprehensive in using it. So when I kind of assembled a panel, I didn't want everyone to say this is brilliant, this is great, this is how it works, because that's not everyone's opinion in the room. And we had some great topics, great conversations on stage around why people are more hesitant to use it, what structures they put in place, what guardrails they put in place, how they're using it today. I think what would be very interesting, and I kind of said at the end when we were wrapping up, it'd be great to come back in a year or two's time with the same panel and see how it's evolved and see how they're automating more and how they're utilizing, because it's developing so rapidly at the moment. Some people are just, you can't even find the time to stay up to date with it. And other people then are actually taking it and utilizing it. In another partner panel, actually, on day one, it was a security fireside chat. One of our partners, Vinod Paul, from Align IT Services, was saying that they leverage AI because of the labor shortages that they have and the new business they're taking on. They're finding it difficult to hire people and bring them up to speed and offer that level of service that their partners expect. But they've taken AI to enhance their existing technicians so that, you know, the mundane, the remedial, the day-to-day stuff that can be accelerated, and they see it as an enhancement tool as well. So it's very interesting to kind of hear from different perspectives how people are leveraging AI, whether it's through automation or to enhance what you do, you know, even to write copy, for example. You know, there's so many ways that can be utilized today. It's only going to develop more and evolve moving forward as well.
Yeah.
And one thing I would also just expand on in terms of AI, because I wasn't able to attend the session with Paul and
Too
Joe.
busy playing Mario Kart.
That's
what
it.
He was doing.
But I did happen to work on an integration or early last year with our good friends at Halo PSA, and they have built a really cool way to do AI within N-central by using some APIs within our product. That form of synergy, even though I hate that word, but putting the two together has done amazing things for our partners. And I know a lot of our partners at Empower were very excited about that new integration that we have coming up right around the corner, probably around May 15th.
That's a very specific date. I think folks should watch out.
That's the Easter egg for today.
Yeah, there you go.
But in terms of my own partner panel, I did one on what is called direct data access in N-central. Effectively, reporting is so paramount to any IT operation. Getting a lot of the data out of N-central over the past has been a bit of a challenge. We've had a kind of reporting engine that sits outside of N-central. We now have something called analytics. Effectively, Power BI through Microsoft is actually baked right into our N-central product. And partners want to be able to get at the data and report on it. But the problem is we're never going to build the exact reports that our partners want. We're obviously going to build much more and expose much more data, but we also have this tool in Snowflake called direct data access. And if you get kind of your hands on that and you know a little bit about Power BI or various other BI tools like Tableau, for example, doesn't matter, name your BI tool, but being able to pull those two things together will give you a lot of power in your reporting. And I had a partner session and it went over very, very well, and there was a lot of interest around it. So I would say that was my big one.
Yeah, as someone sitting in the front row for that one, Stetson, I thought what was particularly interesting was Jason was actually joined by one of our larger South African partners, but rather than kind of just talking about it, the partner actually showed examples of the reports he'd built through direct data access. Because a lot of times, you know, we can hear things, we can think, yeah, it's possible, but I'm never going to do it. Or, you know, in theory, you can do it, but I'm never going to see it. But to actually see the fruits of somebody's labors and see the impact that can have and how detailed it can become, I thought was very impactful. That's the great thing about hearing it from partners as opposed to hearing it from Enable as well. You know, I think it resonates really well with those in attendance.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think just listening to this, I dropped a link in the comments here folks can find about direct data access, but it sounds like it kind of fits into that theme, Jason, you were talking about of the Ecoverse and enabling third-party solutions and, you know, just allowing people to build things and hook into some of this valuable data that they have already to either get insights via reports, build automations, do some of these things that would create real business value. So that's exciting to hear.
And the really cool thing about it, Stetson, as well, is Snowflake has its own AI bot built into it as well. So if you, like me, couldn't write an SQL query to save your life, I can use plain text English and go create this query for me. It generates it for you, and I can run the report against the databases and see, yes, the information is there as well. So it's making it even easier again for people maybe that don't have the expertise in house to actually get access to this data as well.
Awesome. I want to cut down some of the things we already talked about. I'm just going through our notes because we are reaching an end of our time here in just about 10 minutes. But I do want to talk about some of the breakouts and workshops, perhaps some of these more interactive sessions. Curious, maybe somebody could give just an overview of what sessions occurred, and then were there any that have had really actionable tips that people can take home for their day-to-day operations?
Well, I think there were 6 tracks for the breakouts. I know on the business side, there was my track with the sales and business development track. Chris Massey hosted his business transformation track. And then we had an M&A track, merger and acquisition track. And then there was 3 of the technical tracks as well, but I forget the names of those ones.
So we were focused on automation and RMM. We had one around obviously Cove data protection as well. So there was, I suppose, the problem, Stetson, when you go to an event like this is you can only go to so much. And if you're looking at going to Empower in Future, bring lots of bodies with you. This is not a one-man job or one-woman job. There is, the partners that I spoke with were, there were groups from together, and we said this on day one: divide and conquer. Yeah. Go and split up, go to the different sessions, take your notes, reconvene afterwards, discuss what you learned in each session as well. There's so much to take in. I suppose from myself and Jason's perspective, when Jason was playing Mario Kart, I was obviously in a lot of the End Central related stuff.
Of course.
But so there's 5 other tracks going on at the same time that you don't get a chance to kind of to listen in, which I'd love to. But it's a great opportunity to take in a huge amount of knowledge in a short period of time.
Yeah, we have a comment from Somnus here saying Empower always needs more Jason. On that same topic, Paul, about all of this information, I feel like we've covered just barely, scratched the surface, as the cliche goes. How can partners who missed Empower Berlin, aside from attending this event, how can they catch up on all of these details that they may have missed?
And that's really a tough question, because I do get asked that question, and it's you have to be there. Honestly, you just have to make the commitment to go and be there and experience it in person. And to Paul's point, bringing extra people with you. I'm always advocating, business owner, bring your salespeople, bring your marketing people. This isn't just technology. We're giving sessions on how to grow and fundamentally change your business. And it's not all technology that's going to drive that. But I know, Paul, you were saying the accreditations are coming to enable you. So some of the sessions are coming, but I think kind of going back to my broken record around connections and networking and learning from your peers, we can't bring that unless you are actually physically there.
What I would say, Stetson, is make sure you engage with Enable. Stay connected with us. Make sure you're following Enable on LinkedIn. Make sure you're following the head nerds on LinkedIn. Some of these, it's impossible to replicate and bring everything to a virtual environment that we presented over the course of the 2 to 3 days with the pre-day as well. But as Stephanie mentioned, the certification, we did it in person, we did it live in rooms, but that will be coming on demand to enable you very soon. So keep an eye out for that. I'm going to have Darren Niller, our VP of Product Management, join me on my next and Central Office Hours, which is going to be on May 6th. And Darren's going to go and cover off the roadmap that we presented at Empower as well. So if anyone wasn't able to attend the End Central roadmap presentation, you can go to the events page that you posted earlier and sign up for the office hours in May and see that presentation as well. There are other presentations, I suppose, that we presented at Empower that will, portions of them will trickle out through the social content as well. But we didn't touch on Frank Coletti's session. who is our Chief Revenue Officer, but Frank talked about the health of your business. And one of the things he really talked on, there's so many different ways to engage with Enable. Obviously the head nerds are front and center, but we have the business transformation sessions that we run. We have our road shows. We have our in-person events. You have your
book club. The marketing book club that I run.
you have your customer success managers. You have your customer success engineers. You get more from Enable if you actually engage in it. Don't be afraid to reach out to us. I always laugh when I get an email like, sorry to bother you, or thanks for jumping on this call. It's my job. It's my job to help you. I'm not like, if I don't help you, I'm out in the street. So you're never putting us out. When you engage with Enable, or you reach out to Enable, we're only here to help you. So that's what I'd encourage people to do. Don't be afraid to ask for help, because we're more than willing to offer it.
Yeah.
r/enable. We are on Reddit as well. So I know a lot of our technicians gravitate to social media platforms like Slack or Discord, or again, Reddit. So you can check us out on r/enable. You can ask us anything.
Yeah, awesome. And one last point, of course, Enable Empower is coming back next year. This year was in Berlin. I hear next year is where?
Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah,
as a Canadian, being able to see a palm tree in April is always lovely. So
Yes,
very excited for that.
I'll bring the rain from Ireland.
No, don't bring the rain.
I think you're staying home that week.
Yeah.
But yes, grab your phone, take a screenshot, hit that link. There's your QR code. I can tell you, this will sell it, and will probably sell out early. So if you are interested, obviously get that early bird special. And
it's
that
a brand new Omni.
It's
still being built. So it's going to be a brand new venue for us, which is, I think, another exciting piece of it all. We know Omni's, like we did Omni Frisco in Texas last year, incredible venue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one's just being built, so it's going to be next level. Mm-hmm. And again, Lisa just piped in the dates for Empower 2026. So that's April 13th to the 15th in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Enable head nerds, thank you so much for hanging out with me and recapping Empower 2025 in Berlin. Hopefully folks got some value out of this session. We dropped a load of links in the comments here. Lisa says there will be ranch water. Very exciting. We're going to end it there. I hope folks will join for some future sessions. We'll probably go deeper on some of these new features being announced, API integrations and patching and all these different things. You can also jump on the IT support newsletter. This is an itsupportgroup.com. Thanks so much. Hope you all have a great afternoon. Bye.
All right. Thanks, Stetson. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks, Stetson.